How did you escape a kidnapping? I was on my usual morning jog route at 6 in the morning when a white van pulled up next to me on the empty street. The side door slid open before I could even process what was happening. Hands grabbed my arms and yanked me inside so fast my feet left the ground. The door slammed shut and the van took off. There were 2 men in the back with me, and I could see a driver up front separated by a metal partition. I started screaming and kicking as hard as I could. One of them tried to cover my mouth and I bit down on his hand until I tasted blood. He yelled and pulled back. The van was picking up speed and I could feel us getting on the highway. I scrambled toward the door and tried to pull the handle, but one of the men grabbed my legs and dragged me back. I kicked him in the face and hurt his nose crack. He fell backward, cursing. The other man lunged at me with duct tape in his hands. I grabbed his wrist and we struggled. The van swerved and we both fell sideways. I managed to get on top of him and slammed his head against the metal floor. He went limp for a second and I dove for the door again. I pulled the handle as hard as I could, but nothing happened. The door was locked from the outside. The man with the broken nose grabbed me from behind and wrapped his arm around my neck. I couldn't breathe. I threw my head back into his already broken nose and he screamed and let go. I looked around desperately for anything I could use as a weapon. I saw a crowbar on the floor near the back doors. I grabbed it and swung at both of them. Stay back. The one I'd hit in the head was getting up slowly. Blood was running down his face. We're taking you somewhere remote, he said. You can make this easy or you can make it hard, but either way you're coming with us. I swung the crowbar at him and connected with his shoulder. He went down again. The van was going so fast now I could hear the engine roaring. I looked at the partition separating me from the driver. There was a small sliding window in it. If I could get to the driver, maybe I could force him to stop. I started climbing over the men toward the front. One of them grabbed my ankle and I kicked backward with my other foot. I heard him grunt. I reached the partition and slid the window open. The driver glanced back at me. Get her away from there, he yelled. I reached through the window trying to grab the steering wheel, but I couldn't reach it. The men were pulling me back by my legs. I was losing my grip on the partition. Then I saw it. The driver had a coffee cup in the cup holder. I grabbed it and threw the hot coffee in his face. He screamed and let go of the wheel. The van swerved violently and I heard him yelling. One of the men in the back with me was thrown against the side of the van. I pulled myself further through the partition window. The driver was trying to wipe coffee out of his eyes with one hand while reaching for the wheel with the other. I reached through as far as I could and grabbed the wheel myself. I yanked it hard to the right. The driver screamed, "What are you doing?" The van veered across multiple lanes. I could hear cars honking and tires squealing. The men in the back were yelling at me to stop. I held onto the wheel and pulled it even harder. The van tilted up on 2 wheels. Everything seemed to happen in slow motion. The van flipped over and I was thrown backward into the back. We rolled at least twice. Metal was crunching and glass was shattering. When we finally stopped, I was on my side pressed against the roof of the van. Everything hurt, but I could move. I looked around and saw the driver slumped over the deflated airbag, not moving. One of the men in the back was unconscious with blood all over his face. The other one was groaning and trying to sit up. The back doors had burst open from the impact. I crawled over the unconscious man and out through the open doors.